Good afternoon, everyone. Nathan Deno here with Passageways Education, and welcome to today's document management training. In today's training, we're going to be covering how to set up document folders in the Passageways employee portal, as well as how to add documents to workgroup pages. A lot of what we're going to cover today, though, is going to require you to be a portal administrator because we are going to be setting up these folders on the portal admin side of things. So make sure that you are a portal administrator. Contact your portal admins at your organization if you are not already set up as one. So I'm logged in here to one of our little playground portals, and this is what we're going to be walking through today. And as I'm going to show you guys how to set up the two different types of portal document folders that we can have in the Passageways employee portal, as well as how to take some of those and throw them on some workgroup pages. Okay, so really the question is, why do we want to do document management through the portal? Really, this is a convenient way to focus all of your employees' attention right into one intranet, or one page, and have them access all documents and resources from within the portal. That way they don't have to wander out to share drives or scour maybe old resource repositories that you have, but instead can get a seamless experience right through the portal. And the Passageways employee portal allows us to do that and gives us a couple options for how we want to go about letting people access those documents. And the first thing that we're going to do in this process of giving people access to documents is set up document folders, or set up what is oftentimes called the document repository. And the document repository is completely customizable, where we can restrict who has access to what folders, and really allows us to control who can view what documents inside of our portal. This is a pretty obvious need, as there are a lot of different files that a lot of different individuals in your organization need access to. And the two different types of folders that we can create are known as database folders or mapped network folders. And we're going to talk about each one of those, the pros and cons of each, and then how to create both as well. Now, when users are given access to document folders, the main way that they can access them is from this node in their navigation tree called the Portal Documents node. And I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit so you guys can see my navigation tree a little bit better. But this Portal Documents node right here, if I click on this, I will see folders that I have access to. And any user who clicks on this in their navigation tree is only going to see those folders that they have permission to view, and thus can access the documents inside of these folders, just like they could perhaps from a shared drive. So the Portal Documents is the main place where users get access to all of the documents they have permissions to. But we can also go through a process of adding documents to workgroup pages. So this makes it really convenient for users. When they're in let's say a department workgroup, they can easily grab that department's forms, or maybe that department's policies right from documents in that workgroup. Okay, so how do we go about creating these document folders? Well, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, you have to be a portal administrator, and you're going to go into your portal tools inside your navigation tree. And in here, the very first node is the Manage Portal Documents node. And we're going to go ahead and expand that out. And there are two tools inside of this node. Number one is Configure Document Repository, and the next one is Manage Folders. Now, for today's basics training, we're not going to cover configuring the document repository. We're just going to walk through creating folders. And this is where the majority of the work is done with these tools anyway. And so what you're going to want to do is just click on the Manage Folders tool. And this is going to take you into the Portal Admin tool that shows you all of the document folders that have been created thus far inside your portal. Now, we can see that we only have one folder created thus far in this entire portal, but we're going to walk through and create a couple additional folders right now and show you guys how that works. So if we ever want to create a new folder, what we want to do is click the New Folder button in the upper left-hand corner here, and it's going to take us to our creation page. And the very first option that we're given is what type of folder do we want to create. And like I mentioned before, there are two different types of folders. There's a database folder and a mapped network folder. For this first example, we're going to create a database folder. And database folders, what they do is they create a folder structure on the Passageways database. And this folder structure, you have a lot of control over as far as permission is concerned of who has access to subfolders inside of that root level folder that we're about to create here, as well as another really handy feature that is versioning. So anytime that a document that is in a database folder is edited and then saved back, it creates a version or keeps an old version of that document available to you in a historical record. And we'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment as well. But database folders are really nice because of that history, that versioning that you have. So really critical documents that maybe change somewhat frequently can be added to a database folder, and then as they're edited, you always have that historical record for all the previous versions. And this is convenient because if there was ever a mistake made with like a current version, you could always go back, find the old version, open that up, and then correct those changes and get that version back out there. So that's the big advantage for database folders. And the next step in this process of creating a database folder is, of course, we need to come up with a name for the folder. And keep in mind that this is going to be the root level folder. So, if you're going to say, like, we're going to create a folder and we're going to call that folder policies, that's going to be a folder that contains the policies no matter what department they're related to. And then inside of that root policies folder, we're going to create a human resources policies and a IT policies and so on and so forth. We're going to create a subfolder structure inside of that. So think about that naming convention when you create this database folder name. So in this case, though, let's just say that we're going to do, just like I mentioned before, we're going to do the policies. And then our next step is to select who is a reader on this folder. And readers have just view access. That's all they can do. They can see all of the documents inside of this folder and all of the subfolders, but they can't actually do any editing to it. So they can't delete any documents or change any documents. They can simply see them and open them up. So using the user select tool here, what we're going to do is we're going to select any individual users, which are marked in white, any work groups, which are marked in green, or any roles that are marked in blue. Now, for policies, for example, really that's a pretty important folder that everyone should have access to. And keep in mind that we can restrict access inside the subfolders as well, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up the employee role as to have access to this folder. That means that everyone in the employee role will be able to access this folder from their Portal Documents node in their navigation tree. Now, our second set of users here are our writers, and these are the individuals who can make edits to documents inside of this folder, as well as upload and delete those documents, create subfolders, and control who has permissions to the subfolders. So these people are effectively administrators over this particular folder. And yet again, we can choose individual users, roles, or work groups. And let's just say for today's example, we're going to select the portal administrator role. So portal administrators will be able to make any changes that are needed to the folders or the documents inside of this database folder. So once we have that completed, we simply click OK in the bottom right here, and that's going to go ahead and create our folder. Now, of course, there are not any documents in this folder, but at this exact moment, though, everyone who has permission to this folder can now access it from their Portal Documents folder. So if I click on that Portal Documents here, now I can see our Policies folder, and I can open that folder up. but I cannot see any folders or documents inside of it because of the fact that none have been created as of yet. So what we would want to do from here is either begin to populate this ourselves or let the people who are the writers know that this folder is now available and that you should begin to upload your documents to that. And I am a writer on this folder because I am in the portal administrator role. And you can see that there are a couple buttons up here, the upload document and the new folder button. Now the new folder button, like I mentioned before, was so we can create subfolders inside of this root folder. So I could say that this is, human resources policies. And then, create another one like I mentioned previously of IT policies. Now, these folders that I'm creating are going to, create this folder structure inside of this root database folder. I can also upload documents right to the root level folder, or I can go into these subfolders and upload documents there as well. And the way that I do that is just by clicking the upload document button and browsing out and grabbing a file. So if I just grab my downloads here, I could, maybe grab a PDF that I've got, or a PowerPoint, anything along those lines, and upload that right here to the root folder. Now, the disadvantage with the database folder is the fact that you do have to individually upload these documents. And depending on, the size of the document and whatnot, that can take a little bit of time, but really that versioning really helps you control the documents that are added to this folder, and really, is very useful for things like policies. And I just threw a generic document in here, as you can see. But one thing about all of the documents that are inside this Portal Documents folder here, and all the folders themselves, is that if you hover over them, you'll notice this little drop-down appears. And I can click that drop-down and get access to some different things related to the item that I'm clicking on. In this case, I can open or delete this folder. I can only delete it because I'm a writer on this folder. But you'll notice that there's a comments and a properties. The properties is what I want to call your attention to here, because if we click on properties for this human resources policies folder, it's going to take us right into the properties, and there's some really useful information in here. First of all, we can edit the name of the folder if we wanted to, and then you'll notice that there are a couple other tabs here, the second tab being our security tab. Now, the security tab allows us to restrict access down to who can view or write to this particular folder. Now, you can see in this case we only have a role marked in each one of these, so we can't really restrict it down much without removing people's access to it. But if nobody needed to see this particular folder, I could go ahead and remove the employee role and just leave portal admins with access. So we have that capability under the security tab here, and then we also have a subscription tab. And this subscription tab is available to anyone who can view the folder, and they can actually subscribe to changes that take place to the documents inside of that folder. In this case, I can mark as getting an update anytime there is an added, changed, or deleted file inside of this folder. This is really handy for those folders and documents that you work with on a regular basis and want to be aware of anytime changes are made. So anybody who has permission to this folder can use this subscription tab to stay abreast of changes. Now, similarly for documents, if we click the drop down for documents, we get some options here as well. Again, we can open the document or delete it. You'll notice there is a checkout and a history here in addition to the comments and properties. Now, checkout and history relate directly to editing the document. So checkout is what is used when you want to edit a database document. What checkout does is as soon as I click checkout, the document is now in a checked out mode that allows me to edit it. So I could open that document up, make changes to it, and then when I check it back in, as you can see here is switched to check in, I can add any comments here related to my changes to let them know, let's say I changed page 4 or something along those lines, and then I can upload the new version of this document. Now there is another option relating to this editing and checking in and checking out that doesn't require you to do a new upload, and that is known as live editing. Live editing can be enabled for your documents, for your database documents to be edited. And basically what live editing means is that I can open up a document or check out the document, open it up, make my changes to it, and then simply click the Save button in the application that I'm working in, like Microsoft Word or Excel, and that will save those changes automatically right back to the document repository, right back to that document in the document repository. Now, there are some restrictions on that are related to your method of authentication and your version of operating system that you're using. As the time of this particular training, I do know that there was a issue, and this is a Microsoft related issue, with Windows 7 and using what we call integrated authentication. And integrated authentication is when you automatically log into the portal whenever you hit the portal's web address. So that's how the vast majority of you guys are accessing your portals. I'm sure you simply type in the web address for your portal, and then it automatically logs you right in. You don't have to enter in a username and password for the Passageways employee portal. So, but in this case, we're just going to do it manually just to show you what it looks like. So I've uploaded my new version of my document here, and then I click OK, and that's going to go ahead and push that new version onto that document, but it's going to keep on the old version available to us in the history, and we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. So I picked a very large document, unfortunately, to upload, so it does take a little bit longer here. But we can see here we've got our new version. I click the drop down for this document, and then you'll notice that it has switched back to checkout, and there's this history. If I click the history, you can now see that version 1 and version 2 of this document are shown in the history for this, as well as any comments that were added. So this is really handy, this versioning. So that way, even if you've got 20, 30 versions, you can go back and grab an old version and take a look at it to see what things were historically. So just like for the folders, we also have a comments and a properties option here. And if we click on properties for a document, we get similar access to things that we saw for the folder, but in this case, it's specifically for the document. A couple things I want to bring to your attention. Number one is this URL. This is a unique web address or a unique URL for this document. And you can use this URL in a lot of different ways, really to hyperlink right to this document from, let's say, the announcements module, or even in an email. You can shoot this URL out and give people access to this document. The really nice thing is that the portal enforces permissions on this. So even if you did a company-wide announcement and provided a hyperlink to this document, every time somebody clicks on that hyperlink, it's going to ask, basically, does this person have permission to view this document? And if not, they will not be able to access it. So the portal's smart enough to figure that out for you, so you won't have to worry about giving people access to a document that they shouldn't be able to read. The next tab is the security tab, and we can control security to individual documents just like we can control it for those subfolders. So if I wanted to remove everyone's access to this particular document, I could do that and then keep just portal administrators as having access to it. And then we can also subscribe to this document to get an update anytime the document's changed or deleted. So this is really handy for documents that we work with every day, and we want to be aware of when a change is published out by someone. We can get an alert on that and jump in and check out those changes. Okay, so that wraps up the database documents side of things. Now let's talk about mapped network folders. We can create new folders just like we did for the database document, but in this case we're going to click the drop down and choose mapped network folder. This is going to change things around a little bit for us here. We still have to name our folder, and in this case we could do, let's do training guides. And then you'll also notice that there's a directory field. This directory field is for entering in the location path for your share drive that you want to point to. Now, this map network folder is really handy because, like I said, it points directly to a share drive location. And that share drive location then can be accessed right through the portal. So all the documents that are already in your share drive will just be available to users from within the portal. It basically creates a window directly through the portal right to that share drive. So what we want to do in the directory here is we want to enter in the location of the folder that we want to point to. So we can get as specific as we want. We can go into our share drive, look at a really specific, really deep folder, and then grab the directory location specifically for that. So in this case, one thing you also want to do is you want to enter in the server name. That's going to be the first thing that you're going to do. And if you don't have the server name for your shared drive location, contact your IT staff to get that information to be able to enter this directory location. I happen to know the server name, so I'm going to go ahead and enter in that here. And we can see that I've done this once before, and it's populated this for me, fortunately, since Chrome is so convenient. But you can see here I've got / the server name, and then the drive name, and then the root folder name, and then a subfolder name. So you're going to want to make sure that this is completely accurate when you enter this in, or else the directory won't work. So make sure to get all of those spellings correct, all of that spacing and everything correct for the directory location that you're pointing to. Our last step in this process then is to select our viewers. So viewers function in a lot of different ways, viewers function in a lot of similar ways to the readers and the writers for our database folders. Now, viewers have access to all of the documents inside of the folder that we're going to point to, and they have the ability to edit and delete those documents. So this is not a read-only kind of permission. This is a edit permission that we give through this view option. And you want to make sure that you're aware of that when selecting who can view these. So in this case, we're just going to go ahead and choose the employee role for this, because all of them should be obviously accessing it for the training materials, let's say. Once I've made that selection, I click OK. And now everyone in the employee role, when they go to their portal documents folder, will see a training guides folder. And if they click on that folder, it's going to show all of the subfolders and any documents that were in that shared drive location. And we can see that right here, that there are several subfolders and several documents that we pointed to with the directory that we entered. All right, so just like we could for our database folders, we can click on any of the folders in a mapped network folder, but we don't have the same checkout option because of the fact that we have the ability to edit and delete these automatically just by clicking on them and opening them up right here from our shared drive. But we can also keep in mind upload documents and add new folders as well. And anytime that we do this from the document repository, When we go out to our share drive location and look, these documents and subfolders will appear in our share drive location as well. So like I said, this is basically a window right through there. So changes we make in the portal, they affect any documents and folders in your actual share drive. Okay. All right, so we've talked about how to create these folders, the two different types. And oftentimes people ask us, well, what's your kind of stance or your recommendation on the two different types of folders, and how should we go about, creating these folders in our portal? Well, really, the question becomes oftentimes, how clean is your maps, or is your share drive? Excuse me. Is your share drive nice and organized? If so, then by all means use Map Network folders. Because it's going to go ahead and point right to those shared drive locations and give people quick access to those documents. However, if your shared drive is kind of a mess, and it needs to be cleaned up, you've got multiple versions of the same document floating around in your shared drive, we recommend using the database folders and uploading important documents to those database folders and setting up that structure that way. So just a quick recommendation on that for you guys. Okay, so let's talk about how to take these documents and add them to workgroup pages, because really what we want to do is we want to provide really convenient access to documents from workgroup pages when people are viewing them. Now, one thing that I want to keep in mind, or have you keep in mind or be aware of as we go in and do this process of adding documents to a workgroup page. One thing that's really nice about the document repository is the fact that any of these documents that we're adding out to any of these workgroup pages, even if we take the same document and we add it to 20 different workgroup pages, anytime a user opens up that document, what they are doing is they're looking at the actual origin document that lives inside of this portal document folders or the document repository. So even though we're going to be adding this or these documents to maybe multiple different work groups and multiple pages inside of these work groups, anytime a user opens up a document, they're actually looking at the origin document. So you don't have to worry about having that mess of on old documents living out on random pages that you don't know whether or not they're up to date, because the Passageways portal will make sure that it's always the most current version that lives inside of the document repository. So one of the most convenient ways of adding documents to a workgroup page is using an island called the list island. And I've got a document management workgroup here that I created, and I added a page here and added a list island to that page. The list island is really handy because it allows you to list out lots of different types of things. And one of those things is documents. And the list island is most commonly used for documents as well. So when we add the list island to a page, what we can do is go to the Actions button and then click Configure this island. And then you'll notice that we get to the list settings page. Now, one of the buttons here across the top is Add Item. And if we click that Add Item, you're going to see all of the possible items that you can add to the list island. And one of them, of course, is Document. If we click that option, what's going to happen is it's going to take us to this page where we're to select our portal document. Now, what's going to happen is when we click this drop down, we're not going to see any portal documents. So we're like, well, that's strange. We added the employee role as a reader or a viewer on some of these document folders. Well, in order for a work group to be able to add documents to its pages, that work group needs to be a viewer on the folders that we want to pull documents from. And this is a really common question that we get. It's just to reiterate, you have to make sure that any work groups that you want to be able to add documents to those work group pages, you have to make that workgroup a viewer of the folder you want to pull from. So in this case, of course, we don't see any folders in here. So what we need to do is we need to go down into our Portal Tools, go to our Manage Folders tool, go to the folder that we want to pull from. In this case, let's go to our Training Guides folder. Click the drop down for that folder and click Edit. This is then going to take us to our area where we can edit the viewers. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the work group that we want to be able to add those documents to. And in this case, it's our document management work group. So I'm going to select document management and click Add and click OK. And now this document management work group is a viewer on that Training Guides folder. So when I go back up to my list island here, go into Actions, configure this island, and click Add Item, go to Document, and click this drop down again. Now I'm going to see this Training Guides folder as available. So from here, what I do is I click the either open up the subfolders inside that training document folder, or just click on the folder that I want. In this case, I could just go Training Guides, and it will pull up all of the available documents inside of that folder. So from here, all I have to do is just click the checkbox and select the documents that I want to add to the list island and click OK. We can see here that it adds them in a list, and I can actually reposition these. If I wanted to change the name of the document to of the actual name that appears on the list island, I should say, I can do that here. This could be changed to a more friendly name. And then once I've got that selected, I go ahead and click OK. And once I have done that and go back out to my list island, we can now see those documents appear right in a convenient list for me. Now, we oftentimes get questions about these icons that are representative here, if we can change the size of those or edit those. At this time, that is not possible. We can't remove them or change the size or nature of those icons, but I would look to see perhaps to future releases of the employee portal where those options might be added. So one other thing that we can do with the list island is make really cool document indexes. And we can do that using another island called the tabbed island. And I'm going to go ahead and add a tabbed island here by clicking Add Islands. And then I'm just going to search for tabbed. Add one to the page here. If you're not familiar with the tabbed island, it's basically an island that allows you to put islands inside of it and create a tab structure for that. So we can see here that no tabs are currently configured, but I can go to the Actions button here and configure tabs, and then create a document index out of these tabs. So I could, for example, do a new tab, and we can call this tab, let's say these are documents A through D. So I click OK, creates my first tab, create another tab, and then E through G. And then I could also do, if I wanted to not do it maybe alphabetically, I could also do it by year or maybe even by month. So I could do, let's say, November, and then do December, and so on. Now, these documents, or these document tabs, excuse me, or these tabs, I should say, allow us to select islands and put them on the tabs. So what we can do is click the Select Island for this and just scroll down from the list of available islands until we find the list island. We click OK on that one, click the little radio button, and then scroll down and then select Saved Island, or Save Select Island, excuse me. And we just do this on all of our tabs and go through and grab the other list island and put it on that tab. And then when we return out to our island or our workgroup page here, we see our tabs have a list island on them. And we actually see the Actions button for that list island here as well. So all I have to do is click the Actions button, and I can configure this island with documents just like we did for the previous one, because it's a list island as well. So go out here to Training Guides, grab a bunch of documents, click OK, and save that. And then before you know it, you've got this nice little index with all of these different tabs with different documents on them. We can also add documents to the Portal Text Editor island. And if you're not familiar with the Portal Text Editor island, it's basically a blank slate island that allows you to add text and images and is really useful for building out portal pages. But one of the neat features of the Portal Text Editor island is the fact that it has a button when you click Edit and go into the editing of the Portal Text Editor, this Insert Portal Document button. This button allows you to do basically exactly what the list island does and be able to add documents to your portal or text editor. So it has the exact same view permissions as the list island as well. Now, one other thing that we can do is we can actually use the URL that we got earlier to create hyperlinks right from within a portal text editor. So we could enter in, some text here, text for hyperlink, and then we select that text and use this little button right here, the Hyperlink Manager. When we click that Hyperlink Manager, then we get the option to add a URL for this text. So I would simply get that URL from the properties of the document that we talked about earlier, and then add that here under the URL to create a nice convenient hyperlink right to that document. You can also do the same thing with images, because you can hyperlink to images. So if you have a cool little icon that you wanted to hyperlink to and have people click on it to get access to a document, you could easily do that using this tool as well. All right, well, that concludes our document management basics training for today. Keep in mind that you can always go to help.passageways.com to get access to our full help center. This is a great resource for all things education and training, including a large FAQ section, our education and training section. We have a lot of release information about our different products in here. So if you have not been to the Help Center, definitely take a moment to visit it. We also have our weekly training schedule here. Just simply search for weekly here in the Help Center search and it'll pull right up for you. Thanks so much, everyone, and we hope that you guys jump into your portals and start creating some document folders. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call or shoot us an email. We'd be happy to help. And we hope to see you guys at our next training. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.